He owned 5 restaurants, but abandoned the newest right after opening. When complaints flooded in, he disguised himself. 3 words from a trembling waitress exposed a betrayal that would teach him what truly matters in life. The email notification pierced through the darkness at 2:47 a.m. Michael reached for his phone, the blue light making him squint. Another complaint, the 5th one in 7 days. The food was cold. The server seemed afraid. The manager was rude. This isn't the quality I expected. Extremely disappointed. Michael sat up in bed, silk sheets pooling around his waist. He ran both hands through his hair. The penthouse felt suffocating despite floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the sleeping city. 5 complaints in 7 days, all about his newest restaurant. The crown jewel he'd poured $500,000 into 6 months ago. The grand opening had been flawless. Crystal chandeliers from Italy. An award-winning chef he'd poached. Servers trained for 3 weeks. The mayor had shown up. Critics wrote glowing reviews. Michael smiled until his face hurt, shook hundreds of hands, gave a speech about community and excellence. Then he walked away. He hadn't been back since. 6 months. He owned the place, his name etched in gold letters above the entrance, but he'd never returned after opening night. Too busy with expansion plans in 3 different cities. Too consumed with investor meetings and contract negotiations. Too focused on building an empire that grew faster than he could manage. Michael scrolled through his inbox with trembling fingers. More complaints appeared, scattered across the past month like breadcrumbs leading to something rotten. Words jumped out. Unprofessional behavior, declining food quality, uncomfortable atmosphere. Servers seem scared. Something feels wrong here. Something feels wrong. He threw off the covers and walked to the window. Cold glass pressed against his forehead as he stared at the city sprawling endlessly below. Somewhere out there, in a building bearing his name, people were suffering, or stealing, or destroying something he'd built, and he'd been too blind, too absent, too arrogant to notice. By the time sunrise painted the sky pink and gold, Michael had made a decision that would change everything. He stood in his walk-in closet, larger than his first apartment, pushing past rows of tailored suits in charcoal and navy, designer shirts wrapped in dry-cleaning plastic, Italian leather shoes lined up like soldiers. In the back corner, forgotten and gathering dust, hung remnants of his earlier life. Before the restaurants, before the millions, before he'd become someone people recognized. His fingers closed around a simple denim jacket, worn soft from years of use. A small tear near the left pocket he'd never bothered to repair. He pulled out faded jeans, a plain white t-shirt, sneakers that had walked through actual puddles instead of pristine lobbies. When he looked in the mirror, a stranger stared back. The person he used to be, before ambition polished away every rough edge. Michael removed his Rolex, setting it on the marble counter. His wrist looked pale and strange without it, naked. No designer sunglasses, no leather wallet with his name embossed in gold. Just a regular black wallet with cash and an unmarked credit card. Ordinary, forgettable, exactly what he needed to be. The drive across town felt longer than usual, every red light an opportunity to second-guess. Michael kept the radio off, his thoughts too loud for music. He parked 3 blocks away, deliberately choosing a public lot instead of the reserved spot with his name stenciled in paint. Morning light filtered through trees lining the street, creating dappled shadows on cracked sidewalks. A woman in yoga pants jogged past with a golden retriever, both breathing hard. An elderly man swept the sidewalk in front of his barber shop, the rhythmic sound oddly meditative. A young mother held her daughter's small hand as they crossed the street, the little girl chattering excitedly about something Michael couldn't hear. Real life, happening all around him. When had he stopped noticing? When had he stopped being part of it? The restaurant appeared at the end of the block, and Michael's stomach tightened. From outside it looked pristine. Windows gleaming in morning sun, the sign perfectly lit even in daylight, planters overflowing with burgundy and gold flowers. Pride flickered through him, immediately followed by unease. If everything looked perfect on the surface, what was hiding underneath? He pushed open the door. A brass bell chimed softly. The interior was exactly as he remembered. Warm lighting, tables with crisp white linens, soft jazz from hidden speakers. Only a handful of early customers scattered throughout. An elderly man reading a newspaper, 2 women laughing over coffee, a businessman typing on a laptop. And behind the host station, arranging menus with quick movements, was a young woman who made Michael forget to breathe. She looked up as the bell announced his arrival, and something caught in his chest. Not attraction exactly, though she was undeniably pretty in an understated way, hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, minimal makeup. It was her eyes that stopped him. Dark and expressive, they held something he recognized immediately. Wariness. A careful weighing of every person who walked through that door. "Good morning. Welcome." Her voice was warm, professionally cheerful. The smile reached her lips but stopped short of her eyes. "Just one today?" "Yes, please." She grabbed a menu. He noticed her hands, short nails, no polish, slight calluses on her palms. Working hands that knew exhaustion. She led him to a table near the window, graceful despite visible tension in her shoulders. "Can I start you with coffee this morning?" "That would be great, thank you." "Regular or decaf?" "Regular. Black, please." She nodded, writing it on her order pad, though the request was simple. A small tell, nervous, though she hid it well. "I'll be right back." "My name is Sarah, if you need anything." "Sarah." Michael watched her walk away, cataloging details. How she glanced toward the kitchen before disappearing. How her spine straightened when other servers passed. How she carried herself like someone trying not to be noticed. Coffee arrived within 2 minutes, steam rising in delicate spirals. Sarah placed it down with both hands, ensuring it didn't spill. "Have you looked at the menu? Today's special is pan-seared salmon with roasted vegetables." Michael glanced down, recognizing the layout he'd approved 6 months ago. Premium ingredients, creative combinations. But something felt off. The descriptions were identical, yet the energy was wrong. "What do you recommend? What's your favorite?" The question caught her completely off guard. She blinked, and for a moment that mask slipped. He saw bone-deep exhaustion, worry, fear. "The chicken parmesan is really good," she said finally, voice softer. "Homemade marinara, fresh mozzarella, herbs from the garden out back." "That sounds perfect." She wrote it down, and he noticed the slight tremor in her fingers. Not from cold, the restaurant was warm. Not from weakness, her grip was firm. From stress, wearing her down one shift at a time. "Thank you, Sarah." She looked up sharply when he used her name, surprise flickering across her features. Their eyes met for a fraction longer than necessary. "Of course, about 15 minutes. Anything else while you wait?" "This is perfect." She disappeared through the kitchen doors, and Michael settled into observation mode. The restaurant operated smoothly on the surface. Servers moved efficiently. Dishes emerged at regular intervals. Customers seemed content. But underneath, cracks appeared everywhere. A young server dropped a fork and flinched before picking it up, glancing nervously toward the kitchen. Another mumbled an apology to a customer who hadn't complained. The host at the front desk checked his watch compulsively, as if counting down to something dreaded. Then the kitchen door swung open hard enough to bang against the wall. A tall man emerged in a manager's uniform, hair slicked back with too much gel. Mid-30s. He carried himself with theatrical confidence, chest out, chin raised, eyes scanning like a king surveying his domain. The room changed instantly. Every server's posture shifted. Spines stiffened. Smiles became fixed. Even customers sensed the atmosphere shift, conversations dropping to murmurs. "Table 6 needs water refills," the man announced loudly, snapping his fingers at a young server. "How many times do I have to tell you people to pay attention?" "Sorry, sir. Right away." The server rushed to refill glasses still half full, hands shaking enough to make ice clink. Michael's jaw tightened. He forced himself still, expression neutral. Just another customer. The manager's eyes swept across and landed on him briefly. Michael took a casual sip, breaking eye contact first. Unthreatening. Satisfied, the manager returned to the kitchen. The entire restaurant exhaled. Sarah emerged carrying his plate. The chicken parmesan looked beautiful, garnished with fresh basil. She set it down carefully, precisely. "Can I get you anything else?" "This looks amazing, thank you." Before she could retreat, Michael spoke quietly. "Is he always like that?" Sarah froze completely. For several heartbeats, she didn't move. Her eyes darted to the kitchen, then back. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "I should get back to work." "Of course. I'm sorry. It's okay." She tried to smile, but it wavered. "Enjoy your meal." Too direct. Too soon. He'd spooked her. Michael ate slowly, playing his role. The food was good, but not great. Chicken slightly overcooked, vegetables underseasoned. For $28, barely acceptable. The manager emerged twice more over 30 minutes. Each appearance triggered the same response. Tension, fear, people trying to look busy and invisible. Michael heard him berating someone in the kitchen, voice raised. Saw him pocket something from the register when he thought no one watched. Cold fury built in his chest, but he kept his face blank. When Sarah returned to clear his plate, her hands shook visibly. "Was everything okay?" "Very good, thank you." He paused, weighing his words. "Sarah, how long have you worked here?" She stiffened, but nodded. 6 months, since opening. "And do you like it?" The question hung between them. Sarah's eyes filled with something raw and desperate. Her mouth opened, closed. She glanced toward the kitchen again. "I need this job," she said finally, words cracking. "I can't afford to." "Sarah!" The manager's voice cut like a whip. "Stop chatting and get back to work. We don't pay you to make friends." She flinched as if struck. "Yes, sir. I'm sorry." But before turning away, she did something that changed everything. Her hand moved so quickly Michael almost missed it. She slid something under his plate, a folded piece of paper, barely visible. Their eyes met for one charged second, hers pleading, desperate, terrified. His understanding, accepting the burden. Then she was gone. Michael's heart hammered. Slowly, casually, he shifted the plate. His fingers closed around the paper, pulling it into his lap. He unfolded it carefully. 3 words, written in shaky handwriting. "He's destroying everything." Michael read them twice, 3 times. Each word burned into his mind. He looked up. Sarah was across the room, refilling water, shoulders trembling. A woman who'd just taken the biggest risk of her life. The manager emerged again. This time Michael really watched. Saw how he moved through the restaurant like he owned it. How he smiled at customers with practiced charm while his eyes remained cold. This man wasn't just stealing money. He was stealing the soul of this place, destroying it from the inside. And Sarah had handed Michael the truth, risking everything. Michael refolded the note and slipped it into his pocket. He signaled for the check, paid cash, left a $30 tip. As he stood, he caught Sarah's eye one last time. He gave the smallest nod. A promise. "I understand, and I'm going to fix this." The bell chimed as he stepped into sunshine, but Michael was no longer the same person. He'd come for answers. He'd found a battle worth fighting, and 3 words from a terrified waitress had reminded him why he'd built this empire. Not for money or prestige, for people like Sarah, who deserved better than fear. Tomorrow, he'd return, and the next day. He'd watch, learn, document every crime, every cruelty, every theft. And when he had everything needed, the man inside that kitchen would discover what happened when you betrayed someone who had everything to lose. But first, Michael needed to understand the full scope of destruction, which meant going back, day after day, as just another customer. While the real storm gathered silently behind his ordinary disguise. Michael returned the next morning at 11 a.m. Different timing, same worn denim jacket, same unremarkable appearance. The brass bell announced his arrival, and Sarah looked up from wiping down tables. Recognition flashed across her face, so quick anyone else would have missed it. But Michael saw the way her shoulders tensed, then relaxed. Saw the question in her eyes. "Did you mean it? Are you really going to help?" "Good morning, welcome back." Her professional mask was perfect, but her voice carried a tremor underneath. "Hi, table for 1. "Of course. Same spot as yesterday, or would you prefer somewhere else?" "Same spot would be great." She led him to the window table, and as she handed him the menu, their fingers brushed for half a second. Intentional. A connection. Her eyes met his, and he gave the tiniest nod. "I'm here. I'm watching." Relief flooded her features before she caught herself. "Coffee, please. Black." As she walked away, Michael pulled out his phone. Not his usual smartphone with the company logo on the case, but the old backup phone he'd found in a drawer. He opened a new note and started documenting. Time, date, observations. The morning crowd was heavier than yesterday. Families, retirees, a few business people grabbing early lunch. The energy felt different with more customers. Brighter, louder, easier to hide in. Coffee arrived within minutes. Sarah set it down without a word, but slid a small napkin next to the cup. When she left, Michael casually unfolded it. He comes in at 11:30. Watch the delivery entrance in back. Thank you for believing me. Michael refolded the napkin and slipped it into his pocket. He positioned himself at an angle where he could see both the front door and the hallway that presumably led to the back of the restaurant. 11:28. The kitchen door swung open and a different woman emerged. Older, maybe late 50s, with graying hair pulled into a tight bun. She wore a cook's uniform, apron stained with what looked like marinara sauce. She glanced around nervously before approaching a table where an elderly couple sat. "How is everything today?" Her voice was warm, but tired. "Wonderful. As always, Carmen," the elderly woman replied. "You've been making this sauce for how many years now?" 23 years in restaurants, ma'am." Carmen smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm glad you enjoyed it. You look tired, dear. Are you feeling okay?" Carmen's smile wavered. "Just busy days. But I'm fine. Thank you for asking." She retreated to the kitchen, and Michael made a mental note. Carmen. 23 years of experience. Another person caught in this. 11:31. The manager arrived through the front door like he owned the world. Expensive watch, tailored suit jacket over his uniform shirt. He didn't greet anyone, just strode past the host stand toward the back. Michael stood casually, as if heading to the restroom. The hallway was narrow, dim. He walked slowly, phone in his hand like he was checking messages. Ahead, a door marked "Deliveries" stood partially open. Voices drifted out. "Told you Friday, not Tuesday." The manager's voice sharp with irritation. "I'm sorry, Mr. Dalton, but the invoice says—" A younger male voice, uncertain. "I don't care what the invoice says. I'm telling you what I ordered." Michael slowed his steps, staying just out of sight around the corner. "But this is twice the amount of premium beef. If we can't sell it all before it goes bad—" "Are you questioning me?" Ice in those words. "I run this restaurant. I know what we need. Now, sign off on the delivery and stop wasting my time." Silence. Then, "Yes, sir." Michael heard papers shuffling, footsteps approaching. He quickly turned and headed toward the restroom, pushing through the door just as the manager emerged from the delivery entrance. Inside the small bathroom, Michael leaned against the sink, mind racing. Twice the amount of premium beef. That's how he was doing it. Ordering excessive inventory, signing off on it, then either taking half for himself or selling it elsewhere. The restaurant would be charged for inventory that never actually went into customer meals. And whoever that young man was, delivery coordinator, kitchen manager, he knew something was wrong, but was too afraid to challenge it. Michael waited 2 minutes before emerging. The hallway was empty. He returned to his table, where Sarah had already delivered his order. Today he'd asked for an omelet. Something simple. She hovered nearby, refilling water glasses that didn't need refilling. "Can I get you anything else?" She was close enough that he could speak quietly. Who was the guy talking to Dalton at the delivery entrance? Sarah's hand trembled slightly on the water pitcher. "Kevin, assistant kitchen manager. He's been here since opening too." "And Carmen? The older woman?" "Head cook. She's been in restaurants for over 20 years. She's amazing." Sarah's voice cracked slightly. "She doesn't deserve this." Before Michael could respond, Dalton's voice boomed from the kitchen. "Carmen, these vegetables are cut wrong. How many times do I have to show you?" Through the kitchen door, Michael could see Carmen's back stiffen. "I cut them the same way I always—" "Are you arguing with me?" "No, sir. I'm sorry. You should be. This is sloppy work. Unacceptable." Michael watched Carmen's shoulders slump. Sarah beside him had gone rigid, knuckles white around the water pitcher. "He does this every day," she whispered. "Finds something to criticize, something to make her feel small. She's been crying in the walk-in freezer during breaks." Rage built hot in Michael's chest, but he kept his voice level. "How many people work here total?" 7, including Dalton, Carmen, Kevin, me, two other servers, Emily and Marcus, and a dishwasher named Paolo. And everyone knows what he's doing? Sarah nodded almost imperceptibly. We all know. But he's made it clear. Anyone who talks gets fired. And he'll make sure we can't get hired anywhere else in the city. He has connections. What about going to the police? With what evidence? He's careful. It's always just small amounts that could be explained away as mistakes or poor management. And we're all afraid. Michael understood. Dalton had created a perfect system. Theft small enough to avoid major audits. Intimidation thorough enough to ensure silence. Everyone trapped by fear and economic necessity. Can you get me names and schedules of everyone who works here? Michael asked quietly. Sarah's eyes widened. Why? Because when I take him down, I need to make sure everyone else is protected. I need to know who to talk to, who might be willing to give statements, who needs immediate help. You really mean it. You're really going to do something. I promise you, Sarah. This ends. But I need information first. She glanced around quickly, then nodded. My shift ends at 3. I could write everything down and maybe slip it to you tomorrow. Perfect. Dalton emerged from the kitchen, scanning the dining room with predatory eyes. His gaze landed on Sarah. Table 12 needs attention. Now. Sarah jumped slightly. Yes, sir. She hurried away, and Michael forced himself to eat slowly, to appear absorbed in his phone. Just another customer. But he was cataloging everything. The way Dalton touched the host stand like checking for dust, though the real purpose was asserting dominance. The way every staff member's posture changed when he entered a room. The way he pocketed something from the cash register again. Quick, practiced, barely noticeable. Michael snapped a photo. The angle was bad, mostly obscured, but it was something. Over the next 90 minutes, he watched a masterclass in psychological manipulation. Dalton praised a customer's choice of wine loudly, making sure everyone heard how sophisticated and knowledgeable he was. Then he turned to Emily, the younger server, and criticized her for not suggesting that same wine to another table, even though that customer had specifically asked for beer. You need to read people better, Dalton said, voice dripping with condescension. Upselling is part of your job. Emily's face flushed red. I'm sorry. I thought, don't think. Just do what I've trained you to do. Yes, sir. Michael saw tears forming in her eyes as she rushed to the back. An hour later, Dalton was on his phone in the corner, speaking in hushed tones. Michael couldn't hear the words, but he caught the tone. Negotiation, probably. The body language read as someone making a deal. More theft. Selling the stolen inventory, most likely. At 1 p.m., a food supplier arrived with another delivery. Michael watched through the window as Dalton stepped outside to sign for it. The delivery driver looked uncomfortable, gesturing at the paperwork. Dalton pulled out his wallet, slipped something to the driver. Cash, clearly. The driver's discomfort eased. He signed whatever Dalton wanted and left quickly, bribing the delivery drivers too, to sign off on inflated orders, to keep quiet about discrepancies. This was bigger than Michael had initially thought. This wasn't just one corrupt manager. This was a sophisticated theft operation. By the time Michael paid his check and left, he had pages of notes on his phone. Times, names, observations, amounts, everything documented. But what stuck with him most as he walked to his car wasn't the money being stolen. It was Carmen's slumped shoulders, Emily's tears, Kevin's helpless frustration, Sarah's trembling hands. People being destroyed bit by bit, day by day, by someone who treated them as obstacles instead of human beings. That night, Michael sat in his penthouse with his laptop open, cross-referencing everything he'd observed with financial records he'd pulled from the restaurant's cloud accounting system. Access he'd maintained as owner, though clearly Dalton didn't realize anyone was watching. The numbers told a story. Inventory costs had increased 40% in 6 months. Food waste reported was triple the industry standard. Labor costs were down, which made sense if Dalton was making everyone miserable enough that they'd quit. But revenue was also down 15%. Customers were leaving. The restaurant was dying. And Dalton was preparing to swoop in and buy it for pennies on the dollar, making himself the hero who saved a failing establishment. Michael's phone buzzed. Unknown number. This is Sarah. I got your number from the credit card receipt. Is this okay? I'm scared I'm making a mistake. He replied immediately. You're not making a mistake. You're incredibly brave. Thank you for trusting me. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Carmen is talking about quitting. She can't take it anymore. Please hurry. Michael stared at that message for a long moment. Carmen. 23 years of experience, probably supporting a family, probably had nowhere else to go at her age. He typed, I'm going to fix this. I need a few more days to build an airtight case. Can you ask her to hold on just a little longer? Tell her help is coming. I'll try. Thank you. Michael set down his phone and looked out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Carmen was probably crying herself to sleep, wondering if tomorrow would be the day she finally broke. Somewhere Emily was questioning if she was really as incompetent as Dalton made her feel. Somewhere Kevin was wrestling with guilt, knowing what was happening but feeling powerless to stop it. And Sarah was lying awake, hoping she hadn't just made everything worse by trusting a stranger. Michael had built 5 restaurants in 5 years. He'd negotiated million-dollar deals, wooed investors, charmed critics. He'd thought that made him successful. But he'd never felt the weight of real responsibility until now. These people were depending on him, not as employees to boss, not as assets to manage, as human beings who deserved dignity and safety and hope. He wouldn't let them down. Tomorrow he'd go back, and the next day, for as long as it took to document everything, to build a case so strong that Dalton would have no escape. And then justice. Day 3. Michael arrived at 9 a.m. before the breakfast rush ended. The bell chimed, and Emily greeted him, the young server he'd seen reduced to tears yesterday. She couldn't have been more than 22, fresh-faced, with nervous energy radiating from every movement. When she smiled, it looked painful. Good morning, sir. Table for 1? Yes, please. She grabbed a menu with shaking hands. Different spot today. A booth in the corner. Good. He needed different vantage points. Coffee to start? Please, black. As she walked away, Michael noticed the limp. She was favoring her left foot. Yesterday, she'd stood her entire shift, probably without adequate breaks. The physical toll, combined with psychological abuse, was breaking her. Sarah appeared from the kitchen, saw him, and her eyes widened. She hadn't expected him this early. He gave a subtle nod. Emily returned with coffee, hands trembling enough that the cup rattled against the saucer. Have you decided, or do you need a few minutes? Breakfast special, please. Scrambled eggs, wheat toast? Great. I'll get that in for you. As she turned, her foot caught on the booth leg. She stumbled, catching herself on the table. The menu slipped from her hands. I'm so sorry, she gasped, scrambling to pick it up. I'm so clumsy today, Hey. Michael's voice was gentle. It's okay, no harm done. She looked up at him, and he saw it clearly. The expectation of anger, of criticism, of being made to feel small. When it didn't come, confusion flickered across her face. Thank you, she whispered. I'll get your order in right away. She limped away quickly, and Michael felt anger coiling tighter in his chest. How long had Dalton been destroying this girl's confidence? How many times had she been berated for tiny mistakes, until she expected cruelty from everyone? The restaurant was busier this morning. Michael counted 15 occupied tables, which meant more staff visible. He recognized Marcus, the other server Sarah had mentioned, a man in his mid-30s with kind eyes and an efficient manner, and Paolo, the dishwasher, briefly visible through the kitchen window, young, maybe 19, working at a pace that looked exhausting. At 9:30, Dalton arrived through the back. Michael only knew because of the immediate energy shift. Conversations lowered. Movements became careful. Dalton emerged and made a show of inspecting the dining room. He picked up a fork, held it to the light, frowned. Marcus. The server appeared instantly. Yes, sir. This fork has water spots. All need rechecking. Marcus examined it. Michael could see. No water spots. I'll take care of it, sir. You should have before service. Unacceptable. Yes, sir, I apologize. Dalton moved on, leaving Marcus with a perfectly clean fork, humiliation evident in his posture. 20 minutes later, Michael's food arrived via Sarah. How is everything this morning? She asked, voice professionally neutral. Good, thank you. He waited until she turned to leave, then added quietly, Emily's limping. Sarah's back stiffened. She turned slightly, as if adjusting the napkin dispenser on his table. He made her work a double yesterday. 16 hours. She asked to sit for 5 minutes and he said servers don't get to rest while there's work to be done. That's illegal. I know. Her voice was barely audible, but she's terrified to report it. She's supporting her younger brother. Their parents died 2 years ago. She can't afford to lose this job. Michael's jaw clenched. The list I asked for. In the bathroom. Taped under the sink in the women's room, last stall. I wrote everything down. Names, schedules, situations. Kevin's willing to talk if you can guarantee protection. Carmen is... she's barely holding on. I'll get it. Thank you, Sarah. She walked away, and Michael waited 10 minutes before standing. He headed toward the restrooms, which were located down the same hallway as the delivery entrance and Dalton's office. The women's room was empty. Michael slipped inside quickly, locked the door, checked the last stall. There, taped under the porcelain sink, was a folded piece of paper wrapped in plastic. He pocketed it quickly and exited, and nearly collided with Dalton in the hallway. "Restroom's right there," Dalton said, pointing to the men's room with a raised eyebrow. "Unless you can't read signs?" Michael's heart hammered, but his face remained neutral. "Sorry, wasn't paying attention. Too much coffee." He offered a sheepish smile. Dalton studied him for a long moment. Something flickered in his eyes. Suspicion, maybe. Or just the habitual distrust of someone who had secrets to protect. "You've been here a few times this week." It wasn't a question. It was a statement. Dalton had noticed him. Michael shrugged, keeping his posture relaxed. "Food's good. Prices are reasonable. And it's close to my office. Where do you work?" The question was casual, but the eyes were sharp. This was a test. "Hartley and Associates, accounting firm 2 blocks over." The lie came smoothly. Michael had passed the building on his walk. Boring stuff. Numbers all day. Dalton's eyes traveled over Michael's worn jacket, faded jeans, assessing, cataloging. Accountants must not pay well. Not junior ones. Michael smiled self-deprecatingly. But someday, right? The answer seemed to satisfy something. Dalton's posture relaxed slightly. Just another nobody. Someone beneath notice. "Enjoy your meal." Dalton moved past him toward his office. Michael waited until he was out of sight, then returned to his table, pulse still racing. That had been close. Too close. He ate slowly, forcing himself to appear calm while his mind raced. Dalton was paying attention, which meant Michael needed to be more careful. Vary his routine more. Maybe skip a day, come back at different times, order different things. He couldn't afford to be made as suspicious. Not yet. Not until he had everything he needed. 40 minutes later, in his car 3 blocks away, Michael opened the folded paper Sarah had left him. Her handwriting was small, neat, urgent. Staff information: Carmen Rodriguez, head cook, 58 years old, 23 years experience. Widow, supports 2 adult children with disabilities. Dalton has reduced her hours from 40 to 25 per week, claims it's performance issues. She's losing health insurance next month because of reduced hours. She's desperate, cries every shift, ready to quit, but has nowhere else to go. Kevin Park, assistant kitchen manager, 31, been here since opening. Has documentation of inventory discrepancies, but afraid to report. Dalton threatened his wife. She works at another restaurant Dalton has connections with. Kevin has 2 small kids. He's willing to testify if we can protect his family. Emily Torres, server, 22, been here 4 months. Orphaned at 20, raising younger brother, 16. Works doubles regularly, often without proper breaks. Dalton watches her constantly, criticizes everything. Made her cry at least twice a week. She's terrified but too financially desperate to leave. Marcus Wright, server, 35, been here 3 months. Former restaurant manager at another location that Dalton got him fired from. Long story, Dalton fabricated complaints. Couldn't find other work for 6 months. Dalton hired him here specifically to have power over him. Marcus knows it, complies with everything to keep his job. Paulo Santos, dishwasher 19, been here 2 months, undocumented. Dalton knows and uses it to pay him below minimum wage. Paulo works 60-hour weeks for what should be 30 hours of pay, too afraid to speak up. Me, Sarah Lynn, server, 24, been here since opening. Single mother, daughter is 4 years old. Dalton has made inappropriate comments multiple times. Nothing I can prove. Always just on the edge of actionable. Uses my need for this job to keep me quiet. I'm scared all the time. Michael read it twice, each detail burning into his mind. This wasn't just theft. This was systematic exploitation of vulnerable people. Each person chosen specifically because they were desperate, easily controlled, unlikely to fight back. Paolo was undocumented, wage theft with no recourse. Emily was young and afraid, easy to manipulate. Marcus had been deliberately sabotaged, dependent on Dalton's goodwill. Carmen was older and needed health insurance, trapped by age and circumstances. Kevin had a family to protect, perfect leverage. And Sarah, single mother with a 4-year-old daughter, dealing with sexual harassment she couldn't prove. Dalton hadn't just found vulnerable employees. He'd created vulnerability, systematically destroying people until they had no choice but to accept his abuse. Michael's hands shook as he pulled out his phone. He took photos of Sarah's note from multiple angles, uploaded them to a secure cloud storage, then carefully refolded the original and placed it in his glove compartment. Then he called his lawyer. "Robert, I need everything. Full background checks on a James Dalton, currently managing my restaurant. I want to know every job he's had for the past 10 years, every restaurant he's worked at, any complaints filed, any lawsuits, everything." "That's going to take time. You have 48 hours. And Robert, I need a labor attorney, the best one in the city. Someone who specializes in wage theft and workplace harassment." A pause. "Michael, what exactly is happening at your restaurant? I'm about to dismantle someone's entire operation, but I need to do it right. These people are vulnerable. Undocumented workers, single parents, people who can't afford to lose their jobs. When I take Dalton down, I need to make sure everyone else is protected." "Understood. I'll have preliminary information by tomorrow morning." Michael hung up and sat in his car, staring at Sarah's note. 7 people. 7 lives being systematically destroyed by one man's greed and cruelty. And Michael had walked away 6 months ago. Had left them to suffer because he was too busy, too important, too focused on his empire to actually check on the people working in it. The guilt was crushing. His phone buzzed. "Sarah, did you get it?" "Yes, thank you. This is incredibly helpful. Carmen gave her 2 weeks' notice this morning. She can't take it anymore." Michael closed his eyes. 2 weeks. He had 2 weeks before Carmen was gone, before her testimony was lost, before one more person was destroyed by this. "I'm going to fix this. I promise. Can you ask her to hold on? Tell her help is real and it's coming." "She doesn't believe anyone can help. She's given up." That gutted him more than anything else. Someone with 23 years of experience, decades of skill and dedication, reduced to giving up because one man had systematically destroyed her spirit. "Tell her this. The owner of this restaurant is about to fire Dalton and press criminal charges. Tell her she's going to be head chef, not just head cook, with full benefits and the respect she deserves. Tell her to hold on for 1 more week." Several minutes passed. Then, "How do you know what the owner is going to do?" Michael stared at that message. He could keep lying. Should keep lying, probably. Maintain his cover until everything was ready. But Sarah deserved the truth. She'd risked everything to trust him. "Because I'm the owner, Sarah. My name is Michael, and I'm going to make this right." The 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times. Michael could imagine her, somewhere in the restaurant, reading and rereading that message, trying to process it. Finally, "You're the owner." "Yes. This whole time." "Yes. I'm sorry for the deception, but I needed to see what was really happening." Another long pause. "Carmen doesn't believe me. She says owners don't care about people like us." The words hit like a physical blow, because she was right. How many owners treated their employees as disposable? How long had Michael himself been guilty of that, in his relentless push to expand and succeed? "Tell her I was a terrible owner for 6 months. I was absent and negligent, and I let this happen. But I'm here now, and I care, and I'm not leaving until everyone is safe." She's crying. I'm crying. Emily just asked what's wrong, and I don't know what to tell her. Tell them hope is coming. Tell them they're not alone anymore. And tell them to hold on just a little longer. "Okay, I'll try." Michael started the car, but didn't drive home. Instead, he headed to his lawyer's office. There was work to do, cases to build, people to protect. 7 people were counting on him. He wouldn't fail them again. Michael didn't return for 2 days. Strategic absence. Dalton had noticed him, which meant he needed to seem less interested, less consistent. Just another customer whose schedule was unpredictable. Those 2 days, he worked 18-hour marathons. His lawyer, Robert, delivered files 3 inches thick. James Dalton's entire employment history, and it was damning. 4 previous restaurants. All of them showed the same pattern. Inventory costs spiked, quality declined, staff turnover increased, and eventually Dalton left just before investigations could begin. 2 of those restaurants had closed within a year of his departure. "He's done this before," Robert said, spreading documents across Michael's dining table. "Multiple times. He's refined it into a system. Why hasn't anyone stopped him? Because he's smart. He keeps the theft below felony levels, spreads it out, and he targets restaurants where owners are absent, exactly like you were." The accusation stung because it was true. Michael also received the labor attorney's assessment. Rebecca Chen was 50, sharp-eyed with a reputation for demolishing workplace abuse cases. "Your dishwasher is undocumented?" she asked. No judgment in her tone, just facts. "Yes, Paulo Santos. Dalton's paying him under minimum wage, you said. Significantly under, and no overtime despite 60-hour weeks. That's wage theft, regardless of immigration status. Labor laws still apply." She made notes. "The single mother experiencing sexual harassment. Sarah Lynn. He makes comments she can't prove. Touches the line but never crosses it. Classic harassment pattern. Creates hostile work environment without leaving evidence." More notes. "And the head cook losing health insurance? Carmen Rodriguez. He cut her hours specifically to drop her below the threshold. She has adult children with disabilities who need her insurance." Rebecca looked up. "That's potentially retaliatory reduction of hours, especially if it followed any complaints. I don't know if she complained formally. We'll find out. Michael, you understand what you're building here isn't just a theft case. This is systematic workplace abuse, wage theft, possible discrimination, sexual harassment. We're talking multiple felonies and civil violations. Good. I want him buried. He will be. But these employees, they're going to need protection. Undocumented workers are terrified of authorities. Single mothers can't afford to miss work for depositions. Older workers worry about retaliation. Whatever they need. Legal fees, lost wages, immigration attorneys for Paulo. I'll cover everything." Rebecca studied him. "Most owners I deal with are trying to minimize liability. You're different. I was absent. I let this happen. Now I fix it." On day 6, Michael returned to the restaurant at 2 p.m., after lunch rush, before dinner prep. Quieter. Different dynamic. Only 5 tables occupied. Sarah saw him immediately, and relief flooded her features before she remembered to look professional. "Good afternoon. Table for one? Please." She led him to a booth, handed him a menu. As she turned away, she whispered, "Carmen's still here. Your message helped." Michael nodded slightly. He ordered coffee and a late lunch. The restaurant felt different in the afternoon lull. Softer lighting, jazz slightly louder. The staff moved differently too, less frantic, but somehow more tense, like soldiers waiting for battle. Carmen emerged from the kitchen carrying supplies. She was smaller than he'd imagined from Sarah's description. Barely 5 feet tall, gray hair escaping from her bun, face lined with exhaustion that went deeper than physical tiredness. She set down her box and stretched her back, wincing. Then she saw Sarah looking at her, and something passed between them. Sarah nodded toward Michael. Carmen's eyes met his across the dining room. He saw it clearly. The question, the desperate hope fighting against learned despair. He raised his coffee cup slightly, the smallest acknowledgement. "I see you. I'm here." Her eyes filled with tears. She turned away quickly, but her shoulders had straightened just a fraction. Dalton wasn't there. Michael learned from overheard conversation between Marcus and Emily that he had a business meeting, which probably meant selling stolen inventory or meeting with someone else to expand his operation. Without Dalton's presence, the staff transformed, shoulders relaxed. Conversations happened at normal volume. Someone in the kitchen laughed. Emily approached Michael's table. and her smile was genuine for the first time he'd seen. "How is everything?" "Excellent, thank you. You're not limping today." She blinked, surprised he'd noticed, surprised he'd mentioned it. "I had 2 days off, rested my feet." "Good. You deserve rest." Something shifted in her expression, like she'd forgotten what it felt like to be treated as human rather than a resource to be used up. "Can I ask you something?" Her voice dropped. "Sarah said, she said things might change soon. Do you know anything about that?" Michael chose his words carefully. "I think the owner is finally paying attention, and I think people who've been mistreated are going to get justice. I don't believe in justice anymore." The words came out flat, defeated. "People like Dalton always win." "Not always. Sometimes they just win until someone decides to fight back." She studied his face. "You're not just a customer, are you?" Michael's heart skipped. "What makes you say that?" "The way you watch everything. The questions you ask. The way Sarah looks at you, like you're important." She paused. "Are you a health inspector? Labor board? Would you talk to them if I was?" "I don't know. I'm scared." Her voice cracked. "My brother needs me. If I lose this job..." "You won't lose anything. I promise you, Emily. Whatever happens, you're protected." Tears spilled over. She wiped them quickly, glancing toward the kitchen. "I want to believe that." "Then believe it. And when the time comes, be brave enough to tell the truth." She nodded, still crying, and walked away quickly. Michael's phone buzzed. "Robert, background check on Dalton complete. You need to see this. Coming to you tonight." At 6 p.m., Robert arrived at Michael's penthouse with a laptop and grim expression. "It's worse than we thought." He pulled up documents. "James Dalton has been doing this for 8 years. We found 6 restaurants, not 4. The pattern is identical every time. Takes manager position, establishes control through intimidation, systematically steals inventory and cash, targets vulnerable employees who won't report, then either gets fired or leaves just before investigations conclude. Why hasn't anyone prosecuted? Because he's careful about evidence. And because owners usually just want him gone. They don't want the publicity of admitting they hired a criminal, didn't supervise properly, let employees be abused under their watch." Michael felt sick, so he just moves to the next victim. Until now. Robert opened another file. "I found something else. 3 years ago, a restaurant owner in Seattle tried to prosecute. Built a case, had witnesses lined up. 2 days before the trial, the owner dropped all charges. Why? Unknown. But the owner sold their restaurant 6 months later and left the industry entirely. I tracked them down, called yesterday. They refused to talk, but I could hear fear in their voice even 3 years later. Dalton threatened them. That's my assumption. We just can't prove it." Robert leaned forward. "Michael, this man is dangerous. Not just financially, physically. You need to be extremely careful. I'm not backing down. I'm not suggesting you should. I'm saying we need to involve authorities now. The evidence we have is substantial. Let the police handle confrontation." "Not yet. I need one more thing." "What?" "I need him on camera. Clear footage of theft, of harassment, of him threatening someone. Something irrefutable that he can't explain away." Michael pulled out his phone, showing recordings he'd made. "I have audio of him berating staff, video of him pocketing cash, but it's not clear enough. I need crystal clear evidence." "How are you going to get that?" "By making him comfortable. He's been watching me, but these 2 days away made him relax. Tomorrow I go back, act like I'm just a regular who likes the food, and I wear a camera." Robert sighed. "If you're determined to do this, at least let me hire security, someone to watch your back." "Fine, but they stay outside. I can't have anything that makes Dalton suspicious." After Robert left, Michael stood at his window looking at the city. Somewhere out there, Carmen was probably making dinner for her adult children, wondering if she could afford their medications next month. Emily was helping her teenage brother with homework, maybe crying in the bathroom afterward. Sarah was putting her 4-year-old daughter to bed, probably wondering if trusting a stranger had been the biggest mistake of her life. And Dalton was probably celebrating another successful day of theft and abuse, already planning tomorrow's cruelties. His phone buzzed. "Sarah, Paulo asked me today if God punishes people who do bad things. I didn't know what to tell him. He's 19, and he's lost hope." Michael's hands clenched around the phone. "Tell him yes. Tell him justice exists. Tell him to hold on 1 more week. Will it really be 1 week? 5 days. I promise you, Sarah. 5 days, and this ends. Everyone's asking me questions. They know something's happening. Carmen keeps crying but won't say why. Emily told me a customer promised her protection. Kevin pulled me aside and asked if I'd contacted someone about Dalton. What did you tell him? That help was coming. That we needed to trust the process. Was that okay? That was perfect. Sarah, you've been so brave through all of this. Everyone has. Just 5 more days. Michael, I'm scared. What if something goes wrong? What if he finds out and retaliates? What if... He won't. I have lawyers, investigators, security. I have evidence. And in 5 days, I'm going to walk into that restaurant as the owner, not as a customer. I'm going to fire him in front of everyone. I'm going to have police there to arrest him. And I'm going to make sure every single person he hurt is protected and compensated. Several minutes passed. Then, Carmen just texted me. She said she hasn't felt hope in 2 years. She said if you're real, if this is really happening, she'll work for you until she physically can't stand anymore. She said you saved her life. Michael had to set down his phone. His hands were shaking, eyes burning. He hadn't saved anyone's life yet. He'd just stopped ignoring their suffering. But maybe that was the first step. Maybe witnessing mattered. Maybe caring mattered. Maybe showing up, really showing up, not just cutting ribbons and giving speeches, was what leadership actually meant. Tell Carmen she's going to be head chef with full benefits, a raise, and all the respect she deserves. Tell Emily her brother's education is covered. Tell Paolo I'm hiring immigration attorneys. Tell Kevin his family is safe. Tell Marcus he's getting the restaurant he was supposed to manage before Dalton destroyed his career. And tell everyone that in 5 days, we take back what was stolen. Not just money, dignity, hope, the right to work without fear. How are you going to do all that? Because I have something Dalton doesn't. What? A reason to fight that's bigger than greed. These aren't just employees to me anymore, Sarah. They're people I failed. And I'm going to spend the rest of my career making sure I never fail anyone like this again. We believe you. All of us. We're ready. Michael stared at that message for a long time. The weight of it, the trust, the hope. 7 people were counting on him. 7 lives hung in the balance. 5 days. He could do this. He would do this. Because this time, success wasn't measured in profit margins or expansion plans. It was measured in tears drying, in shoulders straightening, in people daring to hope again. And that was worth more than every restaurant he'd ever built. Day 11. Michael wore a button camera hidden in his jacket, invisible to the eye. Security waited across the street. Rebecca Chen was on standby with police ready to move. Robert had every document organized. This was it. Michael pushed open the door at 11:30 a.m. The bell chimed, and Sarah looked up. Their eyes met. She knew. They all knew. Good morning. Your usual table? Please. The restaurant was moderately busy. Good. Michael wanted witnesses. Carmen was visible through the kitchen window, prepping vegetables with precision. Kevin coordinated orders. Emily served a family, her smile genuine now. And then Dalton arrived. He came through the front door, expensive watch catching light. His eyes landed on Michael. You again. Not quite friendly, not hostile. We should name a table for you. Michael smiled. The food keeps me coming back. Good. Enjoy. Dalton moved toward his office. Michael's heart raced. Not yet. He needed theft on camera first. 20 minutes later, a delivery truck pulled up. Michael watched as Dalton went out. The security team across the street would record everything. Inside, Sarah brought coffee with trembling hands. He's doing it right now? Yes. Being recorded. I'm scared. You're not alone. Not anymore. Dalton returned 15 minutes later, and Michael saw it clearly through the window. The driver handing over paperwork, Dalton's quick scan. The cash slipped from Dalton's pocket to the driver's hand. Bribery caught on camera by the security team. At noon, the lunch rush peaked, every table full, staff moving frantically, and that's when Dalton struck. Carmen emerged from the kitchen carrying 2 plates. One wobbled slightly. She was exhausted, hands not as steady as they'd been 20 years ago. Dalton saw immediately. Carmen! His voice cut through the dining room. "You almost dropped that plate." She froze. "I'm sorry, it was sloppy. That's what it was." He crossed to her, took the plates from her hands. "How many times do I have to tell you? If you can't handle the job, maybe it's time to retire." Every customer in the restaurant was watching now. Carmen's face flushed with humiliation. Michael saw her hands shaking, saw tears threatening. "I can handle—" "You clearly can't. This is the third mistake this week." Dalton's voice was loud, deliberately public. "I'm reducing your hours to 15 per week starting Monday." 15 hours, below any threshold for benefits, effectively firing her while keeping the appearance of employment. Carmen's face crumpled. "Please, I need—" "That's final. Now get back to the kitchen." She stumbled away, and Michael saw Emily move toward her, concern clear. Marcus had stopped mid-step, jaw clenched. Even customers looked uncomfortable. Dalton turned with a satisfied smile, playing the firm but fair manager. His eyes landed on Sarah. "Sarah, come here." She approached, and Michael saw her spine stiffen, saw the fear. "Your uniform is wrinkled." Dalton's hand reached out, touching the collar of her shirt. Unnecessary contact, fingers lingering too long. "You need to look more professional. Our customers deserve better." Sarah stepped back, but Dalton moved closer. "And smile more. You're pretty when you smile." That was it. Harassment on camera. Multiple witnesses. Inappropriate touching. Inappropriate comments. Michael stood. Every eye in the restaurant turned to him as he walked toward Dalton and Sarah. His hands were steady now, heart clear. "Excuse me," Michael said, voice calm. "I need to speak with you. Now." Dalton turned, irritation flashing across his face. "I'm working. If you have a complaint—" "I do have a complaint. Several, actually." Michael pulled out his phone, tapped a button. Rebecca's number. The signal. "I'm complaining that you've been stealing from this restaurant for 6 months, that you've been abusing employees, that you've created a hostile workplace through intimidation and harassment." The restaurant went silent. Customers frozen mid-bite. Staff members staring. Dalton's face went pale, then red. "Who the hell do you think you are?" "I'm Michael Chen. I own this restaurant, and you're fired." The words hung in the air like thunder. Dalton's mouth opened, closed. His eyes darted around, looking for escape, for allies, finding none. "You can't. I have a contract, which you violated in approximately 47 different ways. Theft, fraud, wage violations, sexual harassment, retaliation. Should I continue? This is insane. You can't prove—" The front door opened. 2 police officers entered, followed by Rebecca Chen in her precise suit. "James Dalton," one officer said. Dalton backed up a step. "What is this?" "We have questions about inventory fraud, wage theft, and workplace harassment. We'd like you to come with us." "I'm not going anywhere. This is a setup." Rebecca stepped forward, holding a tablet. "Mr. Dalton, I'm Rebecca Chen, attorney for the employees you've been victimizing. We have comprehensive documentation of your crimes, testimony from 7 employees, video evidence of theft and harassment, financial records showing systematic inventory fraud, and as of this morning, statements from 3 other restaurant owners whose businesses you destroyed using identical methods." Dalton's face went from red to ashen. "Those employees are lying. They're trying to get money." "I'm not lying." Carmen's voice, quiet but firm. She emerged from the kitchen, removing her apron with shaking hands. "I watched you steal every single day. I documented it because I knew someday someone would care enough to listen. I have photos of fake invoices," Kevin added, stepping forward. "Timestamps. Everything. You touched me inappropriately 17 times, Sarah said, voice trembling but growing stronger. "I wrote down every incident. Dates, times, witnesses. You made me work 60-hour weeks for 30 hours of pay," Paolo spoke up from the kitchen doorway, his English accented but clear. "You told me I couldn't complain because of my immigration status, but Ms. Chen says labor laws protect everyone." Emily stepped forward last. "You destroyed my confidence so completely I forgot I was good at this job. You made me believe I was worthless." Tears streamed down her face. "But I'm not. None of us are." Dalton looked around wildly. Every face in the restaurant, staff, customers, police, stared back with judgment. "This is illegal termination. I'll sue." Please do, Michael said quietly. I welcome the discovery process. Every document you'll have to provide. Every question you'll have to answer under oath. Every witness who will testify about your pattern of abuse across multiple establishments. Please, sue me. Dalton's shoulders slumped. The fight drained out of him as reality crashed down. This wasn't another restaurant owner he could intimidate into silence. This was someone who'd done the work, built the case, protected the witnesses. James Dalton, the officer said again. We need you to come with us. Now. They led him out in handcuffs. The brass bell chimed one last time as the door closed behind him. For a long moment nobody moved. Then Carmen started crying. Not quiet tears, but deep, wrenching sobs of relief. Sarah wrapped her arms around her. Emily joined them. Kevin put a hand on Marcus's shoulder. Paolo smiled for the first time Michael had ever seen. Michael addressed the customers, many of whom looked confused or shocked. I apologize for the disruption. Your meals today are complimentary, and I want you to know, this restaurant is under new management, mine, and things are going to be very different from now on. One elderly woman started clapping, then others joined until the entire restaurant applauded. After the customers left, Michael gathered the staff in the dining room, all 7 of them, plus Rebecca and Robert. First, Michael said, I'm sorry. I was an absent owner who cared more about expansion than people. I let this happen through my negligence. That's on me, and I'll carry that responsibility. You came back, Carmen said softly. That's what matters. I came back too late. But I'm here now, and here's what's going to happen. He looked at each of them. Carmen, you're head chef with full benefits, health insurance reinstated immediately, and a 40% raise. Your hours are whatever you want them to be. 40 if you want full-time, 30 if you need flexibility for your family. Carmen covered her mouth, sobbing. Emily, your brother's education is covered through college. Scholarship fund in your parents' names, and your assistant manager with full training. Emily couldn't speak, just nodded through tears. Paolo, I have immigration attorneys ready to help you get proper documentation. You're officially paid above minimum wage with overtime for every hour over 40. And if you want to learn cooking from Carmen, I'm funding culinary school. Paolo's eyes went wide. For Dad? Really? Really? Kevin, I'm opening my second restaurant's kitchen to you as head chef. Full creative control. Partnership track if you want it. Kevin's jaw dropped. I don't know what to say. Sarah, Michael turned to her last. I'm making you general manager of this location. Full authority. And daycare on site is being installed next month so your daughter can be close while you work. Sarah broke down completely and Emily held her. All of you, Michael continued. You showed courage when it would have been easier to stay silent. You trusted me when you had every reason not to. You're not just employees. You're the reason this restaurant will be something worth building. What about Marcus? Carmen asked. Michael turned to the quiet server. Marcus, I know Dalton destroyed your management career. I'm offering you general manager position at the 3rd location I'm opening. Fresh start. Your reputation restored. Marcus wiped his eyes. Thank you. Just, thank you. Rebecca stepped forward. The legal proceedings will take months. You'll all be asked to give testimony. But Mr. Dalton is facing multiple felony charges. He won't be managing restaurants again. That evening, after everyone left, Michael sat alone in the dining room. Sarah had been the last to go, hugging him tightly before leaving to pick up her daughter. His phone buzzed. A text from Carmen. I prayed for 23 years that someone would see me as more than just a cook. Tonight God answered. Thank you for seeing us. Michael stared at that message, vision blurring. He'd built 5 restaurants in 5 years, made millions, been called successful by every metric that mattered to the business world. But tonight, sitting in this simple restaurant with its white tablecloths and brass bell, he understood what success actually meant. It wasn't expansion. It wasn't profit margins. It wasn't his name in gold letters. It was Carmen being able to afford her children's medication, Emily's brother getting to college, Paolo having a future instead of exploitation, Sarah working without fear. It was being present, really present. Not just cutting ribbons, but showing up every day, knowing names, noticing limps and trembling hands and slumped shoulders. It was using power to protect instead of to profit. Using position to serve instead of to take. His phone rang. his business partner from the expansion project. "Michael, we need to finalize the deal. 6 new locations by next quarter. I'm out." Silence. "What?" "I'm withdrawing from the expansion. I can't manage 6 locations. I can barely manage 5. And I'm not going to repeat the mistake of being absent while people suffer." "You're walking away from millions." "I'm walking towards something worth more than millions. I'll talk to you tomorrow." He hung up. The restaurant was silent around him, but it felt full somehow, full of the hope he'd seen in Paolo's eyes, the relief in Carmen's tears, the trust Sarah had offered. This was enough. This was everything. His phone buzzed again. Sarah. My daughter asked why I was crying happy tears. I told her sometimes angels look like regular people. Sometimes they wear denim jackets and drink black coffee. Sometimes they show up exactly when you've lost all hope. You gave us more than jobs back. You gave us dignity. You gave us proof that someone cares. That's the miracle. Michael sat there until the sun set, the restaurant growing dark around him. He'd spent 30 years learning how to be successful. Tonight he finally learned how to be good. And in the end, that was the only thing that mattered.